Thank you all for joining us. I know it's been just a crazy week and things continue to change day by day. But y'all are my favorite people in the world. So let me figure out. Everybody's been having technology issues, including myself, because the slide won't advance. So, okay, there we go. All right. So this doesn't really apply for today, but I had this meme set up for the meeting anyway, and I liked it. Today is my first day not wearing sweatpants since But anyway, I hope you all are dressed comfortably and figuring out a way to get work done, even though kids are at home and pets are at home and husbands and wives are at home and girlfriends and boyfriends and roommates and everybody's trying to work from home. And so I hope everyone's trying to find that balance that works for them. Let's see. The first thing I wanted to do, and I just want to say I really don't have Hazel, please don't share your camera. I want to say I don't really have a strict agenda for today because the agenda I was gonna have just really flew out the window by Monday afternoon. So I really want to talk today about what we can do to support you, but I am trying very hard to exit out of here. And I wanted to show you something else. Let's see. Before we get started, share my screen again. Okay. All right, here we go.
Yeah, we can't hear the music, but it's just a collage of all the photos everybody sent in.
Sorry, can't hear the music.
No, it might be because your headphones are in, so it's not picking up the.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll share the link with you all so you can watch that over and over and over again like I have, because I think it's pretty fantastic. So Tanya, if you're on the line, thank you so much for starting that thread and for really taking the leadership and checking in on everybody. And Carrie Wickstead, thank you for sending the photo of your guinea pig, which really got the whole thing rolling. So we really do appreciate it. I shared it with a bunch of my staff and just to brag on how awesome you all are. So I really did appreciate that. Okay, so now let me try and share my screen again. And let's see, go to the next slide. Just to let you all know, I think I sent this in an email, but all office staff, including everyone in the remote offices, are working from home. If you need to get a hold of Silvana, the best thing to do is email her. Obviously, please don't call any of our office numbers because we're not there. And don't leave messages because it'll clog up our voicemail system. Apparently it fills up and you need to delete those voicemails every now and again. We found that out the hard way. So email is really the best way to get a hold of us, or I think I gave out my cell phone number. Please feel free to call me or text me if you have any questions. I know a lot of you are not doing workshops for a while, but just so you know, the warehouse is shipping under normal operations, although I'm sure it's rather quiet there these days. We currently don't have any plans to postpone the Wet and Wild annual meeting, which is taking place at the end of July, which we're kind of hoping will be, you know, a lot of this will be passed by then. However, I know the challenge is some of us may not be back in the office until April or even May. I know several states are considering canceling school for the rest of the school year. You all may not be able to do travel while you're out of office. So, excuse me, please just keep us informed and let us know about your ability to travel. And I guess, you know, we'll talk with Project WET and see, you know, what kind of decisions, if any, need to be made. Kelly, do you have anything to add on that?
No, I don't.
Does anyone have any questions?
Other than that, I will add my cell phone to my email signature. I'm glad you brought that up.
Anyone, any questions? You can unmute yourself. And I'm sorry I'm clearing my throat and your ears. Awful. Okay. All right. If you have any questions about the annual meeting, just feel free to email us or, you know, let us know. We'll try and answer them as they come up. Okay. So in the email threads that I've been able to keep up with, and I know there's been so many email threads, these are the 3 buckets that we see people are asking for. So the first bucket, or one bucket, is home activities that parents can do with their kids at home. So Project WILD activities that are adapted for homeschooling situations. Okay. Then this next bucket we have is one for Project WILD resources. So these are for educators that have already received Project WILD training. So how can we help to continue to support them as they're sending assignments home with kids and figuring out what kind of homework packets that they can put together. So that's another bucket. And the third bucket that I saw was, well, okay, can we continue to do Project WILD training? You know, I mentioned in the email that we've been working for almost a year Growing Up Wild online course. So clearly we don't make any hasty decisions around here. But is this something that maybe you want to put on the fast track to try so that you can continue to meet the needs and so that people can still stay in touch with Project WILD? That is currently the only online course that we have even close to being finished. But I'd love to hear your thoughts about Flying Wild, Aquatic Wild, or Project WILD. And so tomorrow at what time? I think we're meeting online to talk specifically about that. Tomorrow at 1 o'clock. If you want to join us, you can, just to talk specifically about online training and what that might look like, if that's something you do or don't want to do. And so I really don't know how to start this, but let's just start with maybe the first bucket there, the home activities, you know, those that are adapted for homeschooling situations. Do y'all want to unmute yourself and talk about some of the resources that you might have for that?
Hey, Elena, this is John. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Welcome.
Kelly suggested I drop in. I'm not going to sit in for the whole thing. I just wanted to say hi to all of the coordinators. Wish everybody well and hope everyone is doing okay. You're in great hands with Elena and Kelly and Mark. And if there is anything at all that I can help with, holler at me anytime. So I just wanted to interrupt and be super selfish and say hello, that I'm thinking about you guys, and we're here for you if you need a hand.
Thanks, John.
And I will just leave unless anybody wants to chat me up a little bit.
Does anyone have a question for John while he's here? Well wishes.
Well, I'm just glad to hear his voice. So good to hear from you, John.
Yep, still kicking.
Oh, Hazel wants to know what you're wearing, and I can guarantee you that John Lord is wearing a hat at the moment.
Hold on.
Cowboy hat.
Yeah,
There you
no,
go.
I'm wearing my I'm wearing a brand new Brooks Brothers dress shirt. I'm not messing around. I'm dressed for work.
All right. Well, thanks, John.
All right, hang in there, everybody.
Okay. All right. So, I think we should have this somewhat informally. Anybody like thoughts or resources you might have about Project Wild activities that maybe you've already adapted for a homeschooling situation?
I think we put together a sheet of things right after one of the hurricanes that people could be doing. And I had not even thought about that, but I will find it and send it to you.
Kiki, I had the same thought, and I have it. I can send it out. I think there was a lot of, it was called Wild on the Fly, and it was focusing on activities that don't require a lot of materials. And I think there were a lot of the Growing Up Wild songs were in there. And I think Looking at Leaves was in there. But yeah, thanks for putting that together. That totally came to my mind too. It's like, okay, we haven't been here before, but we've been somewhere related before.
I'm glad you've got it, because I was trying to think, how was I going to find it? Between the two of us.
Kelly is an awesome archiver. I think she's got another career as a librarian.
All right.
Another world, and parallel dimension.
And this is Amber here. One of the things that, as I say, I'm the homeschool coordinator here where I'm at Charlie Elliott, and I have a big list of stuff that I've adapted to our homeschool program that we do monthly. And one of the things I do is I send some of the resources home with them, with the parents each month. So I do have a list that I've started from the past couple years from that as well. Definitely offer up for anybody who'd like to have it, because we just did, literally 20 minutes ago, we did No Water Off the Duck's Back with a bunch of high school students, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that'd be great, Amber. And Kelly had started that webpage of Project Wild resources that we'd like to add to. So we could either add it directly to that page, or we could link to your website. We're happy to do it either way or both.
And actually, Lena, being the fact that Project Wild's housed at Charlie Elliott Wildlife Center, there is a lot of the Project Wild activities we've actually used here in all of our programming. So pretty much, I would say probably 60 to 70% of the activities we've adapted and used in homeschool. It's just sometimes thinking outside the box, because you may only have 4 or 5 kids versus 30, but we've done a lot of that in general.
For these activities, would parents need to have access to the directions for the activities? I mean, what should we do about that?
I don't know, from my experience, they love to have the directions to some of the activities in some, in some capacity, but I think it's because of the variation on parents' levels of science comfortability. So I know whenever for our programs, we've had levels where the parent is not the main science person, but they want to engage their kids as much as they can. So they need so much science background and direction on where to go versus the ones who I have ones that are biologist kids who are like, well, I don't need direction. I just need some ideas on how to move forward. So it's a broad scale.
Mm-hmm.
This is Laura here over in Maine, and I know one of the things me and my supervisor have been talking about is being able to pick through some of the activities that we feel would be easy for parents to follow, things that maybe just a few, even if you haven't taken the Project Wild training, perhaps being able to make just a few of the activities available to them online, kind of giving them a taste, giving them other options. So if we can make those some into PDFs, because even like you're saying, people can adapt them, but there are plenty that are easy to understand with very minimal scientific understanding.
I'm trying to keep up with the chat box too. There was a question about, can we send all the links out in one email? And Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're kind of compiling those emails and maybe put those links on the web page somewhere?
Yes, I've started flagging the things that y'all have shared either on the listserv or have sent to me directly, and I'll start putting those on that web page. So yeah, I'll start either like Elena was saying, either linking things or uploading things directly. And Carrie and Heather were bringing up the question of where do we kind of draw the line with copyright issues, and I think that is tricky. And I think, for example, Carrie, like what you had sent with bullets of how people can basically do seed need or keeping cool at home, I feel like that's a good example of you're essentially sharing the steps of the activity, but we're not posting the whole activity online. And we do have sample activities for every guide online that I'll go ahead and I'll link those on that Wild About Remote Learning page too, just so people know that those are there. But yeah, that's a good question. Elena, do you have any thoughts on the kind of copyright walking that line?
I have a lot of thoughts on that, but I feel like these are extenuating circumstances that, and I think it's great that a lot of organizations are sharing things and sharing resources and making them available for free. And I've never been opposed to, giving away everything that we have. It's just that we need to pay my salary, and Kelly's salary, Mark's salary. So, I think there is a way to do that. So, and one idea that I've had recently is what we could do is put some of these activities online on a website that makes it not easy for people to print. And then we can take that website down whenever we want. So if, as a group, we decide we want 5 Growing Up Wild activities to be available for free during the next month or so, that's something that we could do is, create it in a website that has the information that people need. But if they were to print that, how when you try to print a website, it never comes out right, or you'd have to do a lot of copying and pasting in order for it to look good. So that could be like one deterrent.
Yeah, I really feel like that could work pretty well, especially if we picked like top 5 activities or something that are really broad and can kind of fit anywhere in the country. So they're really something easy for people to do right outside their back door, right inside their house, low material abilities, those kinds of things. They're just broad and really easy activities. So when you're looking through that, I think that would really be helpful for a lot of people. And then maybe they'll want to sign up and do the training once it's all better.
Yeah, tagging along that, it sounds like you could do something like a wild modification of the month kind of thing, where it's from the activities, but it's modified or just generalized enough where you can encourage people to do things surrounding the activity without, just a portion of it. But then at the end of those modifications, encourage a training every time. Like if you want to know full depth of the training, try to attend one in your area, but just a grouping of modified versions or samplings that are broad enough.
Would it be okay into this to just do, we were also talking about maybe doing some short videos or demonstrations, kind of doing that of a couple of the activities, just kind of showing a couple, like, or one, and then like you said, the modified steps you could share with it as well. Would that be okay? Because you're not sharing the actual full activity.
Yeah, I mean, I know that we've been bugging y'all at least for 3 years to take video of your workshops. So if you've been doing that, this is the time to share that video with us. So we could take those snippets of video to use in this type of situation.
Yeah, I was thinking, I think that's a good point, Laura. And I was thinking now would be a great time for some social media, you know, whether it's Instagram stories or Facebook Live, of kind of doing things, because as much as we're assembling all these lists, even the lists alone can be kind of overwhelming if there's so much out there. But watching a video of somebody doing something is so much easier to consume rather than clicking through a bunch of links. So now, like Elena's saying, it's like we don't have, well, I guess everybody's remote right now, so nobody really has access to kids at this point. But maybe there's some things we can do where we can model some of these things. Like, okay, if you're at home, you know, here we go, we're gonna walk outside and we're gonna pick up these things and, you know, do X, Y, Z. Maybe there's something on that front we can put together.
Rachel gets a gold star for sending us a bunch of video of phonology at play, students doing the activity as well as the teacher teaching it. So Rachel, can you unmute yourself? And do you think the teacher would mind if we shared some of those?
Sure, I could double check with the teacher, but she also signed the permission slip.
Mm-hmm.
She's looking forward to joining the course on the 23rd. I haven't told her yet that her students are going to be featured, but I know she's going to be super excited.
Okay.
And Elena, I can put you in contact with the teacher too if you want me to.
Yeah, I think if you email her and just CC me, I'd like to just double check to see that it's okay to put a snippet of her teaching on social media, which I know that over 900 people are signed up already for that online course, and that was 2 weeks ago when I got that number.
Oh,
So,
excellent.
You know, I don't know how famous she wants to be.
Okay, well, I'll definitely send her an email connecting the two of you.
Okay, thank you.
This is Ryan from Montana. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Ryan.
Kurt partnered with PBS here in Montana, and they filmed Lunch for a Bear and Oh Dear. So I just sent you and Kelly both that YouTube videos.
Oh, great. Thanks. Oh, and we do have Owapudi from last year. Of you all doing Owapudi at Yellowstone. So yeah, these are some great ideas.
When we go to share these ideas, would you guys pick out a sample of activities and share them on your webpage, and then we could share your link on, say, like for us would be the Inland Fisheries and Wildlife webpage. That way it's still, it's covered, it's coming through you guys. And would the same be true if, say, I were to film a video that Inland Fisheries and Wildlife wanted to share on their webpage? Would it be better to put it up through you guys since it's the Project Wild curriculum, or which way would the sharing go for that?
I think either way, if you think it's easier for us to do it, we're happy to. Otherwise, we could link to your website. We're definitely not opposed to that.
Okay. Would that be the same for, like, I'm just not sure where we ended on, like, sharing a couple activities. Are we only going to do abbreviated, just the steps without the full activity because of copyright, or would you guys be open to you or us on our own picking a couple activities to share? Yeah,
I don't think we landed on a definite answer for that. let me just do a quick poll, and you all can respond in the chat. Would you be okay if we somehow shared, say, and I'm pulling this number out of the air, 3 to 5 growing up wild activities, just making them for free. They probably wouldn't be in PDF form. Like I said, it'd probably be on some kind of web page where it's, again, it wouldn't be easy to print kind of thing. So I'll give you all a minute to, if I hear any glaring no's, I'll just look for strong feelings. And I think the way that, so I'm not seeing anybody opposed to that, and probably the way we'll go about it is Mark and Kelly and I, Mark's on vacation this week, we'll probably talk about which activities to share, and it might depend on what resources you all have emailed to us, if we have videos to accompany that or photos. Yeah, so it might just depend on the additional resources that we have, which activities we share.
Could we also do it for more than just Growing Up Wild? Could we do maybe 1 or 2 from some of the other ones as well to hit other ages?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So yeah, I think it would be the same process for Project Wild, Aquatic Wild, and Flying Wild.
And Susie asked if we could put a link to where to get training with each activity. Definitely, we can, like if we make it a web page for each type of activity, and I can think of different ways we can kind of lay it out so that it's just to, yeah, again, kind of make it accessible, but also not like a PDF that's super easy to distribute. But we could put on every one of those pages, contact your state coordinator to get training, kind of once we can all gather in groups of more than 10. But yeah, that's a good point, Susie. We'll definitely do that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. So if you have ideas or if you have already made adaptations for home activities, can you please email them to Kelly and myself? And we'll start to put all this stuff together and continue to add to that resources page that Kelly had started earlier. And like I said, just a reminder, we can either link to your webpage or we could put it directly on our webpage, either way. The second bucket that people were talking about was, some educators already have gone through Project Wild training. What kind of resources can we offer them? And I think if you look at that resources page that Kelly had created, this is the bucket that we mainly cater to on that page currently. So it's for people that, have the guide with them or have gone through the training, and then a lot of supplemental resources and materials that they could use for existing or for activities that they already have access to. What are your thoughts and ideas around that?
This is Jen. I'm still trying to wrap my head around how I'm gonna put all of this stuff together, because I just get inundated every day, as I'm sure everybody else is too, with new information and new resources and things like that. And so I'm not really sure how that's gonna look. I've already sent out with our facilitators the link to the page that Kelly and Carrie and everybody has started, and that was hugely helpful. Thank you, both of you, and whoever else contributed if I missed somebody. But as far as making it specific to my state, that's my giant task over the next week, is to try to figure this out. So I'm just looking for resources and how to compile them all into a format that's useful to the educators.
Yeah, and once you do that, Jen, send us the link and we'll put it up on our webpage as well.
Absolutely.
And that goes for everyone. And you're right. I feel like every one of us is being asked to learn technology really quickly, whether it be how to conduct online meetings, to building a website, to building an online course. We're all like doing this in a crash course sort of way. And, but, you know, if any of you do develop that website and you want us to link to your website for activities that are specific to your state, we are happy to do that.
You know, that makes me think, I know that some of us have, some of y'all have resources that you've already developed for certain activities. So for example, you know, Carrie, you sent that out about seed need and keeping cool. And Susie sent me a list of kind of task cards that she uses in workshops where, where teachers do a component of an activity and then they share about that activity to others at the workshop. And I can't remember, Susie, but I'm going to say there might have been 10 activities that you sent me. I could start like a Google sheet where we have all the activities listed, like Project Wild, Growing Up Wild, Flying Wild, Aquatic Wild, and maybe make some columns for different types of resources that exist. But I'm just thinking I'd hate for all of us to be kind of like working on adapting these different activities if somebody, you know, if we can kind of assess what we already have or what already exists for different activities, and then we can kind of focus on priority activities that seem especially fit for this type of situation. Like I know, Kim, you mentioned some in the chat. I'll just put, I'm not sure exactly what this would look like yet, but I'll just create this spreadsheet and start filling it out a little bit and share it with y'all in case that's a helpful resource.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I got a new laptop and I'm entering a strange new world. I did see Project Wet is frantically working also on getting things online, and it should be live by tomorrow. They already had kind of online training with the Wet Guide, so I can share that with you, Elena, and with Kelly if you want to check that out and see how they did it. I know that Julia at Wet frantically trying to get it all done in time. There'll be like what they did is teachers start, they get a code from me, which is on the coordinator's login. They email me, I give them a code, they start, they get halfway through, and I don't know, they get halfway through and I have to give them a code, and that triggers that Wet's Warehouse will send them a book, and then they get their hours by contacting me at the end. So there's like an automated system that kind of gets them their certificate, and they have to kind of, I guess, communicate with me about how they would do a sample activity. So I can keep you guys posted on, how that is going if you'd like.
Yeah, that's great. And Julia has been such an amazing colleague and partner in creating the online course that we're doing with National Wildlife Federation. She took Phenology at Play and Here Today, Gone Tomorrow and put them online for us. So she's been amazing. And I'm sure under a lot of deadlines too. Okay, anything else about Project Wild resources for educators that have already received training? Okay, and now the big question is, do we want to do online training? So I think quite a few people are going to try and join us tomorrow at 1 o'clock to talk about this. So we need to think about what kind of online training we want to do, if we want to do it for Project Wild and Aquatic Wild, or do we want to just focus on Growing Up Wild and maybe Flying Wild. I think the challenge is, I don't know. Well, I guess it'd be great to know how Project Wet does it so that it triggers an automatic send from the warehouse. That would be really great to know. And also figure out how they fund that. So their funding stream is their funding model is very different than ours. So
I think it would be worthwhile trying because a little while back we took a hooked on fishing training we used to always do in person, and now people can do it online. Of course, we still try to encourage people when we offer hooked on fishing in person to show up, but we also do it with our hunter safety courses where people do a portion online and then there's a skills day. And the skills day is where you would get more of your materials handed to you. So you're still doing it through the state itself when you register, but you get like an online training link to kind of start learning and getting familiar with certain things. So I don't know how Project Wet does it, but it was just one way I have seen kind of online trainings done that involve hands-on skills as well. So.
okay, and Laura, I think it was you that had emailed me about Mighty Networks.
Yes.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
So Mighty Networks, and I was just thinking Mighty Networks would be, Mighty Networks is kind of like a small version of Facebook and a lot more private. We use it for inland fisheries and wildlife staff to stay in touch with each other without just sending mass amounts of emails to each other to keep track of like what different staff are doing for projects. And I myself, I don't know if it necessarily permits to online training, but I was thinking it would be good for all of us as coordinators to have a space because you can separate out different topics. You can put up updates of personal updates of things you're working on. And it's kind of a private little safe group. It's not on Facebook. It's a very professional page. So Mighty Networks is kind of a nice way to get a professional group of people together, and you can always check up on statuses and have ongoing conversations.
That sounds kind of like Slack. Has anybody else used Slack?
I like it better than Slack. I've used both, and I think this one's much easier, and the interface is much user friendly.
Yeah, I use Mighty Networks for there's an R3 discussion going on in Mighty Networks, and it is interesting to use. I haven't delved into it very much, but I do use it as a resource whenever I have a question about what's going on or if I'm looking for a particular resource. I know that I can find it there. Yeah, and it is a useful tool. I don't know much about administering it or the cost associated with it or anything like that.
Yeah, I could find out about that from my supervisor because my division is information education, and I believe my supervisor was one of the people who implemented that across our department. And yeah, I don't know what the cost of anything is, but we just started using it a few weeks ago, and we've got pretty good response from the staff. And I know a lot of our staff can be resistant to new things online, as many people can, and they've gone over pretty well so far. So I can ask her about that.
All right, thanks, Laura. I asked somebody else to talk about an idea that they had, and I can't remember who it was.
Brittany.
Oh, Brittany, thank you.
Yeah, it was me, but I feel like it's kind of already been talked about, but I'll bring it up anyway. I shared a link to the digital resources library that I made there. And the first one you'll see on there is the PLT Activities for Family PDF. So PLT chose like a set of activities and then modified those for use in your family when you're home, and you can download PDF versions of activities. It's not, I don't think it's directly what's in the guide, but it's a version of it, and then you could like pay to purchase a printed version of it as well, but the PDFs are downloadable for free. So I just didn't know if there was something like that already out there for Wild, and it sounds like there is with all the homeschooling resources that are going to be coming up, but I just thought it was a good resource to have for people right now in this time. And yeah.
Yeah, we have the the Growing Up Wild home resources, right? Those are available for anyone. But when I was going through them, I thought some of them might not, well, it's certainly not the full activity. And I feel like a lot of them, I'd have to double check, but if you just started just there and didn't do the activity beforehand, the full activity beforehand, the kid might be like, what are you talking about? You know, or it might be a bit of an abrupt transition without having done the activity beforehand. Yeah. So the take-home activities are designed, you do the full activity first, and then parents can follow up with it at home. So I'd have to take a look at them again, and I'd welcome anyone's opinions about those, using the take-home activities as a standalone piece. Okay, so again, I'm trying to monitor the chat and try to keep up. So forgive me if you can always interrupt me if I skipped over your question, but Heather had a suggestion about doing a blended model where they, Heather, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I was just wondering, listening to everybody's kind of thoughts and what people have already been doing from this meeting, is if a blended learning format may be a possibility, just for like Project Wild, Aquatic Wild, where we do the larger trainings, where the first half, all of this is online, where there's the actual lessons, examples of activities, so that they can get started understanding the program. And then once we can all actually do a training, that there may be an abbreviated form of face-to-face to finish the training, and that's then where they would receive the book with all of the activities. And then I was just seeing Ashlyn says she's already doing something like that in the chat, so she probably has way more ideas on what works and doesn't work with that.
Yeah, you know, I saw your note and I thought, yeah, that's exactly where we've been at, is doing this hybrid model, and we've really had it's been really well received, which has been nice. And it's worked really well for us too. But of course, now we're looking at, well, how do we move it entirely online? So I'm really excited for the conversations about all this, and the call tomorrow, you know, to see what comes from that, what ideas everybody has about moving the face-to-face portion to an online, to try it, at least, you know, to try something. But yeah, it's been good to have that blended model.
Yeah, Carrie, you've been working on something for Growing Up Wild.
I threw together a sheet for Growing Up Wild, and I'm trying to put together some activities in Google Classroom, like first impressions, where you can do surveys and things like that, and then link it to books that are being read on YouTube and everything. So my goal is to do half of it, have them do half of it on their own time in Google Classroom, and set a date aside where we get together in Google Meet and discuss some of the activities and discuss extensions, and even do a couple things on Google Meet together.
So you have some asynchronous and some synchronous meetings?
Essentially, yeah. So it would just be a set of activities that they have to do on their own. So like, who lives in a tree? I'm putting together a PowerPoint to record the tall oak poem, and then just have them go and look at trees and wildlife that use trees on their own, and then write up a discussion about it. And then we'll talk about it in the face-to-face class online.
And so, Carrie, you had also mentioned that they can't get the guide because the guides are all at your office. So how are you dealing with that?
So that's going to be built into it because they won't have the guide to look at the activities. I'm going to have to flesh them out a little bit more on that Google Classroom and in the Meet. And then my goal is once I am able to get back into the office and send these guides out, I will send out kind of the book scavenger hunt survey, and that would be the final step for them to do to get their certificate.
All right, well, and Carrie, when are you planning on implementing that?
Good question. I'm working on it by the seat of my pants right now. So.
Yeah, okay, understood. Very, getting a lot of feedback.
I think that's Jeannie.
Oh, there we go. All right, thanks. Okay, so thank you all for your thoughts and ideas. And it sounds like there are already a lot of resources out there. And thank you all for your hard work on that. And I know we're all scrambling. So I feel like we're wrapping up this conversation with a couple of conclusions. One is for the adapted homeschool activities and for the educators that have already received Project Wild training, send us those links, email us those resources, and Kelly and I will work on filtering through them and figuring out a way to organize it, all that information on the webpage that we have. We can either link to your webpage or just embed it within ours. If you are interested in doing and participating in the online training or creating some sort of online course, we are meeting tomorrow. I'll be sure to record that meeting if you can't make it. And then you can watch the meeting when you have a chance and tell me your thoughts later. What am I missing? Did I miss any of the conversation in the chat or anything that you all discussed, or did everyone have a chance to say what they wanted to say?
Laura Downey mentioned that NAAEE might be willing to let us create an EE Pro group for Wild that would allow us to limit who is in the group and post things, etc. So maybe we could talk about that a little bit tomorrow.
Okay, Laura, do you know who's managing the EE Pro group now these days?
I don't, Elena, but I just popped off an email to Judy and Sarah and Bruce and said, is that a possibility? I think it's free and it allows you to have sort of the same conversations that you would have on Mighty Network, or I can't remember what it's called, but it also allows you to limit who goes into that space. So I will let you all know what they say about that. So
okay.
Yeah, that would be. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying it'd be really nice. I don't know about y'all, but I get a million emails, and I unfortunately sometimes miss some of these really important Project Wild emails as I'm still settling in after 5 months in my job. And I would love to have another space where we can communicate all of us together and not miss important things because my inbox is filling up.
Yes, I hear you. And Laura, I think technically I'm still a moderator on several of those discussions. They haven't removed me from a lot of things. Maybe I could go in and create my own.
Yeah, I don't know the process for doing that at all, but it just seems like instead of paying for something, why not use something that a lot of people already use anyway and create your own space.
Okay. Thank you, Laura, for that suggestion.
And did you say you'd be sending out a link to the meeting for tomorrow?
Yes, I can. Yes, I will do that. What other takeaway points for you all?
I am looking forward to seeing what kind of ways we can share some of these Project Wild things. Next week, we're hoping to try to get information out to parents. So I've been working on trying to get some activities written up myself that are easy to use. So having a couple maybe easy to use Project Wild things would be wonderful to be able to share with parents and teachers.
Okay, anyone else? Just want to make sure everyone has had an opportunity. I know there's a lot of people on the meeting, so but feel free to unmute yourself or type something in the chat box there. I just want to make sure everyone's thoughts and ideas are heard.
So I just had a very off the wall thought.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any Project Wild activities that address contagious diseases? I mean, is there something that we could offer to help people understand what's going on and why we're all sitting in our own homes? And I can't think of any, but it just occurred to me that maybe that would be a way of helping. I don't know.
Kelly, you want to talk about bat blight?
Yeah, it's funny you should mention that, Kiki. So when we were updating the guide and we were talking about different topic areas and species that we wanted to include, the activity that was going to be the bat activity for a little while was a disease activity. And then I can't remember the exact chain of events, but obviously we have Bat Blitz in the guide, which is about kind of ecosystem services of bats and that sort of thing. But it does touch a little bit on white nose syndrome. And so Carrie mentioned that as one. We did have an activity that we developed, which started out as a bat disease activity, and then we changed it to an amphibian disease activity, which talks about, I think BD is what it's called. And so I was thinking along the same lines that you were, and I pulled that up. We field tested it, and one educator who field tested it, she had a tough time with it. And granted, it's a pretty small sample size, but due to a variety of factors, we ended up not publishing it, but it is in a pretty solid form because we field tested it. So we got it to a certain point. So I pulled that up and sent it to Mark and Elena this week. So like Elena said, Mark's out, but next week, the three of us will be regrouping together, and that might be something that we could share with everyone. It's not in the guide, so there's not like a copy, there's not that same concern. But it talks about, it's kind of like a social media. You've kind of seen those things on social media before where, oh, my third grader is doing this activity to see how quickly this can spread. And it kind of talks about, the spread of disease and environmental factors. And so stay tuned on that front, I guess.
How about, Kelly, if we email that out to folks?
Yeah.
And get their feedback, and if the coordinators are like, that's the worst activity I've ever seen, then let us know. Otherwise, it could definitely be something that we consider sharing.
Yeah, I could link it on that page too. So yeah, I'll email it out to y'all and just send any feedback that you have to us.
I know when I taught high school, I taught a unit on communicable diseases, and it was the most disgusting unit I've ever taught in my entire life. But we had them actually transmit diseases, and I can't remember how we did it, although we can't do it now, but they had some sort of, was it baking soda something on their hands, and they would shake hands with another classmate, and then we would find out who was the originator. Like, you trace it back to patient 0. And
it's
then
glitter.
What is that?
It's glitter.
Glitter?
You use glitter.
Oh, you use glitter. Oh my gosh.
That's what I always use, was glitter on mine.
That's a great idea.
Yep.
Although people can't be shaking hands now.
Under a black light, it'll glow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we use Glow Germ to do that now. It's amazing.
What's Glow Germ?
Oh, it glows in black light. It comes in a powder or a liquid. And you put it on like the globe when we're passing the globe around, or I put it all around the room. And then you have people look at it under a black light and their hands light up.
Oh, okay.
Super cool. Just
There was
Google, just go
another-
on Amazon and look for glow germ.
Okay.
Carrie uses it with Bat Blitz, which I've now, adopted because she's amazing.
There was another piece of technology that we tried. So we had them shake hands, but then we had them they pointed a little clicker at, instead of shaking hands, they just pointed a clicker at one another. And the clicker somehow kept track, 30 sets of clickers kept track of who interacted with whom. And so instead of names, they were just numbers. And so we traced it back to patients there. But teachers would need that piece of technology. I wonder if there's an app. Is there an app for this? There must be. There must be an app that simulates, how. I did see a nice simulation about how social isolation helps, where, if you go out and you don't socially isolate and you interact with 500 people, how it spreads. But if you do practice a little bit of social isolation and you only spread it to 250 people, anyway, it shows how not socially isolating really makes that curve go up exponentially. But anyway.
Is that the one with the pink dots and the blue dots or something?
I think so. Mhm.
Yeah. That was a good one.
We could maybe, instead of the social media aspect, show something like that, show an animation like that. Okay. So I want to be mindful of the time. We're approaching 3:30. So we'll go ahead, we'll send that activity out to you all. Kelly, you and I will meet tomorrow and talk about some of the resources that we have and maybe how to organize that on the webpage.
Okay, sounds good.
In the meantime, keep sending us all of your information and links, and we'll be sure to include that on the webpage. Thank you all so much. You're my favorite people. Oh, and I'll send you the link to the video with everyone's photos. Okay, because that's awesome. Right. So don't forget to breathe. Don't forget to go outside. Practice your birding skills. There's all kinds of songbirds coming back. It's so lovely. Spring is in the air. So, all right, get outside. Start your garden. Take your kids for a nature walk. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Be careful, everybody.
Okay. All right. Let me, I should stop recording. I think it might have recorded my conversation with my husband.
Oh, and this chat, as much as any chat, will probably be a valuable one to pull back up.